Welcome to session one, brother. We're going to be talking about the power loop and the idea of this thing called mindset. This thing up here that controls and dictates every single decision you make in your life. Before we dive into this, I want to make this very fucking clear. This isn't just a motivation session. You're going to feel fired up after learning this. You're going to feel like you can run through a brick wall, but understand it's not motivation. It is a system for transformation. And I want to invite you to consider that your problems aren't the problem. Your business problems, your relationship problems, your life problems aren't the problem. Your story about them is. Over the next 30 to 60 minutes, we're going to be burning the script that you've written for your life and writing a new one. And this is a game of mastery. You've heard me talk about this the last couple of weeks. It's a game of peace, a game of presence, a game of purpose, a game of productivity, joy, and connection. It's a game of mastery in all of these areas as a modern day man, as the empowered man you know you can be. And this game of mastery falls across the four dimensions of body, mind, balance, and wealth. Your physical body, your energy, your sleep, your nutrition, your hydration, the weapon that you have to handle life, your vehicle, your mind, which is the shield we're going to be focusing on this week to handle anything that comes your way, your thoughts, your emotions, your stories, your narrative, which feeds into your balance, your relationships with the people that matter, with the people that you love, with the people you're working so fucking hard for, and of course, wealth, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. All of these are connected, and all of these come back to this game of mastery over your mind. So before we dive in, you probably want to know more about my story. I'm not a guru. I'm not perfect. I'm just a man who's walked through the fire. I have days where I struggle. I have days where my wife and I are not connected. I have days where I feel like business is a prison. And I am not your guru. I am not perfect, but I've been where you are. I swept shit under the rug and I ignored the problems and I lost everything. It all happened when my partner came home 9 years ago at the time of recording this. And she said, "Tony, I don't love you anymore." And like so many men, I thought I had it all. I was successful, I was making money, I was providing, and I had swept the problems under the rug for 6 months. She said to me, "I don't think we're going to work out." 6 months prior to saying, "I don't love you anymore." And my response to that was, "Don't say shit like that." And I swept it under the rug. Now this put me in a dark place of depression, anxiety, stress, drugs, alcohol, numbing myself every single day, sedating myself with substances, suppressing the pain and the shit going on in my head until one day I decided I don't want to be here anymore. And my father called me that day. The same father who was never around, the same father who never taught me the things we teach in this program, the same father who 40 years or 30 years after his divorce is still a victim. And he said, "Tony, you've got so much more life to live and so much more to give." And that was the moment everything changed. Now, it was also this time that this beautiful woman came into my life. This is my wife, Rosie. I talk about her a lot in the Words of Wisdom. This woman is my soulmate. She is my best friend. I'm so proud of her. I love her so much. She completes so much of my life as my partner in life. But I noticed I started to make the same mistakes with Rosie. The same issues that have held me back for so long. You see, with Rosie, I had purpose. I had direction. I had a reason to be alive. And I was in love. I was infatuated, probably like you have been with your partner, with your children. But I also fell into this pattern of the demons that held me back in my life. There was the good side of Tony, the angel, the guy who would work hard, the guy who would look after himself, the guy who was a great partner and provider. And there was also the version of Tony who was still numbing himself. You see, I was chronically stressed. I was chronically anxious. There were points where I couldn't leave the house. There was a point where I had to hold my wife's hand because I was so afraid that I was going to drop dead from the pressure and stress I put on myself. And our relationship started so well. Love, intimacy, connection. But over the years, with the business growing and the stresses that I felt, that weight got heavier and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with the stress. I didn't know how to deal with the pressure. I didn't know how to handle being a modern day man. So I turned back to alcohol. I turned back to drugs. I turned back to sedating myself with substances, screens, and work itself until one night Rosie and I got into an argument. It was always an argument about something stupid. And instead of dealing with that argument, I ran to my balcony in Bondi and I jumped off the fucking edge. Now, I've shared this story previously in videos. That was a turning point for me where I decided something would change, and I got my life together. I got mentors, I got coaching, I did courses, not as good as these ones that you're doing right now, but I changed. And everything was going so fucking well. I bought 3 properties, my business was growing, and even though I still had some stress and anxiety, things were working. And that's when our daughter was born. My beautiful daughter Talia was born July 22nd, 2021. This is me holding her where I look like a young little boy, no facial hair. It changed the game for me. It changed the game for me, and it's crazy because I should have been proud. I should have been excited. But when this beautiful girl came into my life, it completely changed me. Instead, I was numb. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was broken yet again. I was in this pit of depression, and it didn't make any sense because everything was working. I had the house, I had the cars, I had the wife, everything was connected, but I numbed myself. I felt this massive weight that I'd felt for years, but it was deeper now. Fatherhood changed me, and I started working more, and I started doing more, and I told myself I was chasing success, but the truth is I was running from the pain. I was running from the negative thoughts. I was running from the difficulties, and I began once again sedating myself with work, drugs, alcohol, and distractions. Now you can probably see a pattern here. You can see a pattern where I do well and then I burn it to the ground. Then I do well and I burn it to the ground. And Rosie came to me 6 months after Talia was born, crying, erratic, just tears streaming down her face. And she said, I can't do this on my own. I don't know if we're going to work out. And that yet again broke me. Deep down, I was lost. I was a victim. I was blaming her. I was blaming work. I was blaming all this external stuff around me. And it got to a point where I started having these negative thoughts and I started considering maybe not being here anymore. I started thinking maybe it'd be better if I wasn't here. It would be easier. And the guilt that I felt being a father now, how dare I have these thoughts? How dare I consider leaving my daughter behind in this fucking difficult world that's only getting harder? So I didn't know what to do. I went to the doctor in Sydney and I said, I need some antidepressants. He responded to me saying, I'm not going to give you antidepressants. You need to go see a psychologist. My response was, I've already seen one. I want antidepressants. He wrote me a script within 20 seconds. And I went home. And if you've ever taken antidepressants before, they just numb you. And I took it about 12 p.m. and I could barely keep my eyes open. I woke up the next day at like 10 in the morning. And I got up and I made a decision. I made a choice that something had to give. I flushed those antidepressants down the toilet, and since then everything has changed. That shift happened when I stopped running from the pain and I started reframing it. I'm going to explain to you in this series what a reframe is and how powerful it is, but I began to shift the narrative, and today things are very different. I started to look at my pain, my stress, my anxiety, my problems, my doubts, my fears, my anger, not as punishment. My pain was feedback. It showed me what to shift. You're in this program because there's some pain in your life. Maybe your marriage is broken down and your wife has left. Maybe you're on the brink of divorce. Maybe your marriage is phenomenal, but your business is something that gives you stress. That pain is here to teach you. This is why we do an AM journal and a PM reflection. That is laying the foundation to understand your pain in body, mind, balance, and wealth. And this allowed me to take back control. When I reframed the stories, when I reframed the problems, suddenly pain became power and I wasn't a victim anymore. I was in control. My new reality now is radically different. I truly have it all in body, mind, balance, and wealth. I am in complete control of my thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions. But most importantly, I feel peace. This is the first year of my life. I've been running this business for 8 years. It's the first year of my life where I feel peace. I know I'm in control. I'm grounded. I'm present with my children. Sometimes I'm present in my marriage. I'm living from power and pain. And don't get me wrong, there are many days where I'm still stressed, many days where I'm not present, many days where I doubt myself, many days where I don't know how I'm going to get through, but I'm able to push through that in a matter of minutes or seconds. That's the real game. That is how you win. And this is my beautiful family here with our second daughter, Kaya, who was born on the 30th of December, 2024. This is what's possible for you, brother. To have it all in your body, mind, balance, and wealth. But this is the raw truth. You think the problem is your money, your stress, your marriage, your partner, your business, your team, but those are just symptoms. They're not the real problem. They're not the real problem. So in the next video, what we're going to do is break down what the real problem is. Brother, if you can relate to any of what I've just shared, know that you're not alone. And you're about to get the keys to the kingdom to learn how to reframe your reality, build the life you desire, and have mastery and succeed in all the areas. Mark this video as complete and then move on to the next video now.